afternoon, and thank you all for coming. I'm Freda Liu from BFM, and this is the 8th DNA Disrupt series, and they've asked me to do this. So I said yes, no payment, maybe dinner. Just before we begin, and obviously you all know what you're here for, but a word from our sponsors. And the sponsor is my former company. This is the team from the startup team, yeah. We've got Murali Sankar from the Marketing and Business Development Manager, ISV and Developer Relations for IBM Software. He's based out of Singapore. And also Long Fong Yi, the Manager, ISV and Developer Relations. So thank you for supporting this. And I know we'll be hearing something from Murali. So welcome, Murali.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is last. So I haven't had a chance to prepare, and he delegated it to me just about a couple of minutes back. So, okay, I'm not standing here up as a sponsor, okay? I'm standing up here because we love the entrepreneur community. Now, that's going to be coming as news to a lot of you, okay? How many of you amongst here are entrepreneurs? Oh, wow. I'm talking to you guys, okay? The rest of the guys, okay? I'm just kidding. But, one of the programs that we run is called a Global Entrepreneur Program. The idea is, in our organization, the organization that I work for within the IBM team, is chartered to nurture business partners that own their own business solution. They have the IP for a business solution, and they want to deploy that IP in a lot of places. So you're going to monetize a creative solution that you have created, and you want to go sell it out in the marketplace. We are in that space. We work with mature companies. We also now work with entrepreneurs. We started this program a couple of years back, and we had a camp last year called the IBM Smart Camp, where we invited and selected a few partners from around the region to come and present their case for what they are doing in the innovation space. And from among those partners, we found one partner who had a very innovative solution around cancer detection and fibrosis detection using technology, okay? And we took them to a global camp that we had in New York. They got a tremendous amount of publicity, and for all that they invested was nothing but a few hours of their time to put together a presentation to pitch to IBM. Now, we invite you to join us as entrepreneurs to the Global Entrepreneur Program. The web link for that is ibm.com/isv/startup, okay? Just go on that link, register yourself, look for a mail that will come to you around IBM Global Smart Camp, okay? The camp is scheduled to be held together with the Global Entrepreneurship Summit that is scheduled for 11th and 12th of October in Kuala Lumpur. We are dovetailing along with a 3,000 packs event. Here's a chance for you to showcase what you are doing to make the world a smarter, safer, and a better place to live in. You have the innovation, you have the creativity, you have the ability. We have the infrastructure, we have the marketing nous, and we have programs that can actually help you to position your solution in any part of the world, starting with your home country, taking it to regional, and then taking it global. If you find you are excited about looking at global opportunities and monetizing your solution, working with us on the technology side, on the business side, on the skill side, as well as on the networking side, we are hoping to welcome you. So we are looking forward to having you join us on the Global Entrepreneur Program and the Smart Camp that we are going to host in October this year. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach my colleague here. His mail ID is longfy, LONGFY @my.ibm.com. If you didn't get that, it is longfy, F for Finland, Y for Yak, @my.ibm.com. Please write to him, or go online and register. If you can't find that, you can even write to me at hmurali, MURALI, hmurali@sg.ibm.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently, and have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, Murali. It's a hot day. So again, thank you for all of you here. And I just want to see again, some of you have just arrived. Who are from startups representing, from a startup company, again, just a show of hands. And who are from PR companies? Okay, thanks for coming. And just to introduce the panel that we have here today, and today's discussion is really, again, to highlight to entrepreneurs, the ins and outs of dealing with media. For those who are startups, have you all had to deal with media yet? Not yet? Okay, so this is a good opportunity on, what's the best way to reach out to the media, and obviously PR agencies would have. So, and we all come from different experiences, and just want to introduce the team here. We've got Gabey Goh from Digital News Asia, obviously. Gabby, I know from way back when, and she used to also write for Advertising and Marketing magazine, and I had to talk to her a lot every week in, week out, and then she comes back again under DNA. And then we have Marc Lourdes from Yahoo, Malaysia. Edwin was, did I know you from your journalism? No, okay. He used to work for The Star, Intech, and then after that he was on his own, and then of course now he's part of the team at DNA as well. And in the early days at BFM, he really helped out with us getting up the tech show up and running, and then he had no time for us. But never mind, he's back. Myself, okay, I work at BFM. I've done the gamut. I started off working in a PR company. Anybody from Edelman here by any chance? Okay, that was my first job, and I was working for a PR company. And then after that, I worked for IBM, working in the communication side, working with analyst relations, media relations, and then now with BFM. So, when we talk about the state of, and there's Fahmi Fazil there, also very good with the media. And he owns this place. Thanks for the space. And want to start off with the situation or this landscape, the media landscape at the moment. I think it's great that we have a lot of PR companies right now pitching stories, and we do appreciate these stories coming from PR companies. I think you have a better idea. But for a lot of the startups, you may not have the budget, or you may not be able to see the media possibility, or you don't know how to angle in such a way that people will pay attention, the media will pay attention. So, hopefully from today's session, you'll get to find out how best to, reach out to us. Great, you're turning up here. You're hoping to exchange some name cards. That's very good. So anyway, what we'll get started with, and we're going to open the floor for questions. If you're very quiet, that's where I come in with some other questions. But we're going to hear from each and every one of them the best pitch that they've ever gotten, and also the worst pitch they've received, and names will not be disclosed to protect the innocent. So why don't we start with what Edwin has to say? You want to borrow the mic? Oh, you got the mic?
I'm a man who believes in chivalry, so ladies first.
That translates to, I can't think of anything, Gabby, buy me some time. Best and worst pitch. Okay. Unfortunately, in my altogether short career, I have yet to receive something that could be classified as the best pitch. By and large, when working mostly with PR agencies for the larger companies, I have the best relationship with PR professionals who understand what my publication is about. If I'm writing about technology, don't come to me with something from the timber industry. What does that got to do with me? And so, with these guys, and you develop a relationship, pitches are actually really fast. All they have to do is say a couple of lines. I know that they won't come to me unless they've got something, and it's a very smooth process. Now, the worst pitch I ever got is not really a pitch, but this is relevant to startups. I was at a web camp. I think you were there as well, Freda. The irony is that the topic of that night was media relations. Yes, and you were speaking. So the event ended, and it was the networking portion of the evening, and I met a random entrepreneur. At that point in time, I was working for another media organization who shall not be named, but is very big and very well known. But anyway, moving on. So the conversation went along the lines of this. It's like, hi, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a technology journalist. And the guy said, oh, with which media organization are you with? And when I said the name, he then went on to proceed to do a 10-minute tirade about how he stopped reading it years ago, he doesn't buy it anymore, it's so slanted, it's never the truth and all that stuff. And at the end of the 10 minutes, he then asked for my card and then proceeded to say, oh, I have this startup, and went on. So here's the first tip of the night. If you are in a position to start seeking publicity for your venture, it is not a good idea to whack the publication of the journalists that you're speaking to. It doesn't matter what your personal views are, but you kind of have to put on the poker face and just say, oh, great publication. By the way, I have this new venture I think you'd be interested in writing about. So that's my best and worst.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot you worked there for a while.
We shall not speak of it. But, yeah. Come in, sit down, grab a seat.
Relax.
Mark?
I'll let this gentleman take a seat first. Okay, so best and worst pitch. I'll start with the worst. So my job title is country editor, and I get a lot of pitches via email. That's how everybody works these days, right? And a lot of them are just random, the email equivalent of cold calls. And I got an email from the corporate comm department of a major Malaysian company. I mean, it's blue chip, main board, everything you can think of. And the first thing I see in the email is, "Dear Marc Lourdes Country." I was like, when did my last name become Country? And throughout the rest of the email, they proceeded to refer to my company by the name of an entirely different company. So it was very clear that, first of all, they didn't bother to get my name correctly, and they didn't bother to change the template of the email from company A to company B to company C and then to Yahoo. So these kind of things, right from the get-go, the signal it gives you is that I really don't care enough to want to be careful about this email or about this pitch. So naturally, I didn't read until the end of the email. I just threw it out. And that's one big thing you have to avoid. If you are going to cold call or just email someone out of the blue, do your best, do your homework, find out about them, find out titles, designations, names, company names, and so on and so forth. Be very careful. Try to personalize it as much as possible. It helps and makes a difference, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings, and we don't like our name misspelled, we don't like our name mispronounced, we don't like our designations mixed up, and I don't like being referred to as a country. I mean, I am putting on weight, but I'm not that big yet. Okay. On the other hand, the best pitch I ever got, and I'm not going to mention names except to say that Freda used to work for them. So the best pitch I ever got was from this PR consultant who called me, cold call again, said that they'd like to meet up to discuss some story ideas they have. And what they did have was not a hard sell at all, but sitting down and asking me questions as to what my editorial needs are, what my editorial direction is, what is it I look for in a story, and then trying to provide me solutions. So that for me was a huge win-win situation, because they were actually trying to look after my interests as well, instead of just pushing a brand which they wanted to push or pushing a client which they wanted to push. And it also made me feel good. It made me want to work with them, because I could see that these people, they were taking the right approach. And at the end, we did do some stuff together. And later on, when they started sending me emails, which were, again, not entirely related to what we discussed, I was more predisposed to actually reading through the entire email. And it helped that they got my name right. So that's the best and the worst for me.
Before Edwin talks, because I know he would have mouthed on it, there's also that fear. You're a busy man, to approach you and to have and sit down with you. Do you have time? I think that also goes through the agency's mind. So is it very subjective? Is it just because you're sort of more open to that?
Yes, well, that really, it is very subjective, because we go through busy periods, we go through lean periods. Let's say the whole month of April, if any PR company would have approached me, I would have said no right off the bat, because we were going crazy with the elections. Now, I may have time, but it all depends on the approach, the initial reason for calling me. Is it going to be interesting enough to grab my attention? Am I going to be going, whoa, that's interesting, let me talk to you further? Or am I going to go like, okay, this is just another new brand of paint, I'm not interested in that. So it's really hard to set a hard and fast rule for that.
I would have never asked Asohan. Okay.
Nobody asked Asohan.
Dear A.
Dear A?
Dot. Mr. Yapp.
So they don't actually call you Marc Lourdes, right?
It's an email.
Well, I'm just wondering whether those guys who calls you Marc Lourdes. No, but anyway, I just want to reiterate the point that Marc said. I've been combing through my mind, and I don't have an exact specific case, but there's one particular one that really irked me, and this particular person shall be unnamed. This was quite a number of years ago. I don't know whether that person still works in this line. It's unfortunately, it comes from a PR person, not so much of a startup. But I've known this person for some time, but quite just casually acquaintance with this person. And this person tried to pitch something to me by trying to leverage on our casual relationship, okay? And I think that's a no-no, okay? PR guys out there, startups, those fellas trying to, get your message out there. Do not try to treat the media as your friend, and because they're your friend, you think that you can get so-and-so, this journalist, to come and cover your event when you have nothing to say in the first place. So content always trump anything else. I think there's something that we want to be clear about. Just don't say, hey, I'm desperate, nobody is coming for this event, I need you to come to this event, I'll throw in a makan for you, throw in a lunch or dinner for you. If your story has nothing substantial, as Marc has said, it wouldn't interest the publication. And I also echo what Gabey said earlier, know your publication, know the audience in which we write for. I didn't really exactly get a timber type kind of scenario.
Oh, I've got more than one from the timber industry, but it was really weird.
Yeah, but there has been a lot of stuff sent to our general email box, even back in the time of Intact. And, it's just not relevant and it gets junked. A little bit about a comment about time. Yes, I do feel that time is of the essence. So you got to get to your point quickly also. And I think sometimes, even now today, we get stuff in our DNA box that really goes 3-4 paragraphs, quotations of statistics, trends and all that, and then only they come to the point of saying, ABC, this is what we are trying to say. And I think we can do it without all that. Always remember what we journalists classically call as the news pyramid or the inverted pyramid. Your most important message, say it at the top first, okay? 1 line or 2 lines of some stats or some trends is all right. But over and above that, I think we should just get down to pitching the content and making sure that you have the right stuff to catch whether the editor or the publication that you are actually writing to.
I actually want to pick up on what you said earlier about how you shouldn't think of journalists as your friends. You shouldn't, especially for startups, because the way we interact with you is in a more casual scenario. Usually I'll pop up and lurk at a webcam or at a startup event and all that. And obviously, the rules of engagement for you guys with us is slightly different than, say, with the PR agencies, because that's more formalized, that's more corporate-centric. For you guys, we actually, to be honest, for us, especially at DNA, we let you guys get away with murder. We will let you guys do things in the interactions with us that we will not let the PR agencies sitting at the back there get away with. But the fact is that the point I want to put across is that we are not your friends. We can be friendly, and from a personal perspective, we can go, makan, drink, or whatever. But always keep in mind that we would go after a negative story with just as much enthusiasm as we would a positive one. And startups is not always about the good stuff, There are failures as well. There are screw-ups. And never assume that because you know me, you have me as a Facebook friend, that I would shield you and say, okay, I won't write the story. Are you kidding? I will write the story. That's what we do. So never assume that your relationship with a journalist is, always copacetic. Because there's always going to be good, there's always going to be bad. And over the years, I'm sure my old man can share that quite a few friendships were lost in our pursuit of this profession.
But just to add on, just remember that none of this is personal. We don't really care about you. No offense.
Yes.
We don't care about you or your company. We care about the story. And if it's a good story, you're lucky. If it's a bad story, too bad. But the thing is, what drives us is knowing that we have a story that we can chase. So we'll be friendly to you as long as it's useful to be friendly to you. But if we need to nail you, we will nail you. So that is very important to remember. And remember that on our side, there are no hard feelings. And you should never take it personally.
Now we sound like the mafia. It's just business.
It's just business.
Well, these two, my two colleagues here, very, very, gung ho, huh? Very.
We're still young enough.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
As the saying, I always say, one to approach media, one to exposure, just keep in mind that once you're in the limelight, you're also under the spotlight.
Okay, once in the limelight, also in the spotlight. Good advice from a man who has more than 20 years in the business, okay? I just want to say that it's important to keep in mind a saying that my boss, prior to my time with journalism, has always taught me, work is work, okay? Work is work. So if you are pitching as a company representative, treat work as work. Don't blur the lines between friendship. I won't go as far to say that we are not your friends or, we can, I have over the years become very good friends with PR people as well as startups. But when it comes to work, work is work. So treat work professionally. We know that you have a job to do. We also have a job to do. I think sometimes, a lot of times, the startups, fraternity, and also multinationals or even blue chip companies, as Marc said, they overlook the fact that, the delineation between work and, say, professionalism and something that is more personal. And I think if you keep in mind that, I think you should be on safe ground. Okay, Freda?
Just a couple of things you're talking about, content, and that's really important. I think at the end of it, it's about the content, and it's when you write and pitch, especially for the startups, right? I know you've got a great product, I know you've got a great service, you've got a great solution. In your pitch, always think what is the story at the end of the day. Your solution, how is it going to help that person? How is it going to help save the world, whatever it may be? And so you got to get further out, so then it makes it easier for the media to see the story behind it, because you're fantastic, great, unless it's some breakthrough technology, big deal, but what's that solution, what's that thing that you've got that's gonna make the story? You know what I mean? Like, I can understand how startups, you get very excited about your product, and you're talking a lot about the product, great, so how's it gonna help the end user, which is the reader at the end of the day, right? The people you're trying to sell to. So just some of these things as well. And, just what Marc said, it's the little things. Once you've got that all right, getting the name right. I get email as well. My name, 5 letters, Freda, surname Liu. I write email, I reply, and then they write Freda. And you see, and you think, that's going through my head. If you can't get 5 letters right, how are you going to get bigger things right? Human, it's not media or whatever, it's just that you get this mail, it's like, okay, how meticulous is this person in doing whatever they're doing? So it's little touches, and it's whether you're dealing with media or not. But I think that's important. We're going to open the floor to questions. Maybe for those of you, I've interviewed a couple of you on BFM as well. I think, pitching, maybe like with DNA, is kind of straightforward. Sometimes we get a lot of pitches to BFM, and it's to all, and I will get a pitch to me because they know me. I'm very friendly, and it's a completely different story to what my show is all about. And they say send, right? Thinking that I will then send to the respective producer. Okay, I cannot decide for the other producers, so I always reply and say send to producers@bfm.my. We're not going to do the work for you. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. As much as well as you know the person, right? If you don't know which angle or which publication, sometimes we get a lot of this email, and it's just like, and I'm just imagining if I'm a star. Or whatever, publication, right? And I work and I represent the sports desk, and someone sends me a business story, right? And it was just like, are you even thinking? Yeah. So little things like that. If you want to pitch the particular thing, do some research. I come from the days when we used faxes, when we had to look through the papers and find out who the editors are. Everything is on this search engine, not Bing. probably Google, but so do a bit of homework because everything is there for you. So no excuse in being lazy.
If I can just add on, Freda, it also boils down to you as a startup, what your media strategy is. And what we talk about when we say, know the publication you're talking to, the first and foremost thing you have to think about is what kind of publicity do I want? At what stage am I in my startup growth cycle for the types of stories? For example, if you are just starting out, you're at like the seed stage, then what kind of publications would you like to talk to? So ideally you map it out. So at the beginning when you're in startup phase and you think that the audience that you want to reach, perhaps not so much user acquisition, it's more perhaps getting the eye of potential investors, that's when you look at publications that speak to that space. So that's when you pitch to guys like Digital News Asia or E27 or Tech in Asia, because that's the kind of audience that they cater to. So we are very strictly defined by the audience that we talk to. So DNA speaks to entrepreneurs and ICT professionals. Mainstream papers, they have the mass kind of thing. So when you're looking at, for your own startup, your media strategy, look at the growth cycle and see at which point. So you can't just talk to the media with nothing to say. There has to be a reason why you're talking to us in the first place. So in the beginning, for example, stage 1, you talk to the startup portals that have investors reading them because that's what you want. That's the end goal you want to achieve. You want to get the eye of potential investors. So once then, say further along your growth path, you have investors already in, now you're looking at user acquisition. Then you start thinking, what kind of product do I have? What is the target audience for this stuff? If you're in the fashion and beauty line, then you start talking to the specialist magazines. You talk to Clio, Marie Claire, or the lifestyle sections of the Star and ST and stuff like that. You won't talk to the guys in Star Biz or even BFM, perhaps one of the weekend shows for the more lifestyle centric. So for you as a startup, think about who is the audience you want to talk to and for what reason. And from there, reverse engineer back. Then it's a lot easier for you to think, which publication should I be speaking to? And because you have a more focused direction in terms of what you're trying to achieve, in terms of getting that story out, you'll find it for yourself a lot easier to talk to these guys. So that's the tip. Another tip for the night.
Assuming you're talking to mass media publications, the Star, the NST, Yahoo, whatever, the easiest way to think about the most interesting point of your story is to imagine you're telling this to a friend. If you were to relate a story to a friend, what would you do? You'd go, hey, have you heard about this? This is what it's about. And you'll immediately tell the person the most interesting thing about that story. Whether it's the cure for cancer, or whether it's a fantastic new automobile, the fastest in the world ever, or whether it's the latest Durex survey, which is very fun, by the way.
Always.
Whatever it is, you will usually lead off your conversation with the most interesting aspect of that particular story. However, the common mistake that most companies or PR companies make is by leading with the brand message. The public doesn't care about the brand message. The newspapers, the media doesn't care about the brand message. We care about the story. The brand message is something you put in. You just slit it in there so that it is picked up along the way. But if you don't grab the person's attention right from the start, right from your lead, you have lost them already. So always just think about it from that angle. How would you tell the story to a friend? And then you already have a good starting point.
Sometimes if you're lucky, the story is already there. For example, Watch Over Me, the security app, that app got insane publicity. Why? Think about it. I mean, on its own, security app, there are 24 out in the market already. You probably have 2 or 3 you're testing out for your mom or your sister. Why was it that Watch Over Me was the only one out of so many in the market that got crazy amount of press? It's because of that, what Marc was saying about the most interesting part of the story. It's about the hook. It's about the human interest. Most mainstream consumers don't care how the technology works. They don't want to know. If it works, they click it. It works, it fine. But in the case of Watch Over Me, it was due to mainly because of one co-founder, Sinchi, because a year and a half before, she herself was the victim of an assault attack in the Curve. It was quite publicized. She wrote a public post about it. And then because her personal story is that after that assault experience, she was motivated to join the Sekumi, which is the startup company that developed Watch Over Me, to continue efforts to help women in such situations. So when she pitches that story with the angle of her personal journey, it's an automatic hook. It's an automatic win. If I'm an editor, I listen to that pitch, I'm like, done, sold. Because we're always, especially for the mainstream guys, you're always looking for that human connection. What's the human interest angle to this particular piece? So, I mean, for example, even in the non-tech startup space, I remember when I was still with Malay Mail and I was asked to do a story just to look into the state of organ donors in the country. Now, the fact of the matter is that, you know, we have a dire lack of organ donors in the country, and it's been ongoing. The wait list for organ transplants is ridiculously long, and it's an ongoing issue. It hasn't changed in years. But when I came back as a junior reporter and I pitched it to my editor, I was worked up. I was like, we got to do something. We have to. But my editor said, we can't run the story. One, because it is not new. It's old news. And two, do you have a face to put on this? Do you have a 12-year-old girl who desperately needs a kidney who's willing to be named on record to put a human face to this? So these are the kind of things that this is the thought process when it comes to our side of the fence, how it goes. So when you're looking at your startup and your product, what is the origin story? What is the hook? And that's what you lead with when you walk into a potential meeting with an editor.
Okay, and I know Asohan has an anecdote he wants to share with everyone.
Oh.
Okay, that one outside just now.
Actually, first, let's try and direct this discussion because we've got so many startups here. And they know how to approach DNA. Most of them, because we do cover the startup space. But Marc, what kind of startup stories would Yahoo actually be interested in? How would the startup sell an idea?
Question for the sake of the live stream people. Hi, live stream viewers. Asohan asked Marc. Yeah, Asohan asked Marc what kind of startups would Yahoo be interested in covering.
Do we have any startups in the room that can give me a scenario? Would anybody like to volunteer?
Impromptu pitch. Anybody ready for that? All right.
Sure, we have a volunteer.
All right. Here, talk to the mic for the sake of the.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, please. Yes.
Yep. My name is Daniel. My company is Eco Centers. Currently, I'm actually brewing a project called Genity.com. Genity.com is basically a green building B2B marketplace, basically connecting the builders and the architects and also the green supplier together in one place for them to actually solve their problem in bringing green technology to the green building environment. Generally, the whole objective is actually to reduce the carbon emission in all buildings, which is currently generating 40% of emission. So it's actually a big mission here, right? That is why my very simple story to start with, right?
So my question to you would be, how is what you are doing different from what everybody else is doing? Because green technology is currently very sexy.
Yeah.
We have a ministry for it.
Yes.
We have green architects. We have green technology. We have that beautiful IBM building in Subang Jaya. A nod to our sponsors.
Yeah.
So how is what you are doing different and special? Why is it worth a story?
Okay, why is it worth a story? Put it this way, right? The entire green building industry, each nation have their own green building standard. That makes it very complex for the green professional to assemble the technology together. So what the platform did is that actually allowing the professional to source for the right material, the right technology, and incorporated it right from their desktop instead of calling for a salesperson for the pitching to reviewing. That reduced their time as well. But on a more macro-based aspect, right, it's basically reducing time and helping them to meet the compliance of the green standard, right? And in my roadmap, actually looking into, beside the Malaysian Green Building Index, I'm looking into the international LEED, the US standard, and also the Singapore Green Mark as well. As I move on to different nations, the different standard that I can incorporate in the portal, so I will open up the market as it go about. The advantages is pretty simple. It's enable all the green professional to get the job done right the first time. Right?
All right, Daniel, in your case, I would have to say that Marc wouldn't be the guy you talk to unless unless you can get one of your current, have a seat. Unless you can get one of your current users who is a architect or a developer company to agree to be interviewed in collaboration with you. So then the pitch, if you still want to get on Yahoo Malaysia, then the pitch would be you get your user who is the architect who's big into green technology to lead the story. And so then the angle would be, my pitch to Marc would be like, making green tech easier to achieve. That would be somewhere along the lines.
So just to give you more insight into why Yahoo, in this example, wouldn't be the right place. So what you described to me is something that is very interesting from an industry perspective. So if I were into green architecture, if I were into the construction industry, that would be very interesting. But me as a regular Joe, as a homeowner, it doesn't benefit me because I don't build my own home. And my audience, the Yahoo audience, is built up of these average Joes. We have government servants, we have PMEBs, we have college students, we have retirees. None of them would be using this technology firsthand. Therefore, they wouldn't be as interested to consume this news as, let's say, an industry magazine. So that is why, going back to what Gabby said earlier, it's very important to know your audience, to know whom you should approach before you make the pitch.
Thanks. Before that, thanks, Daniel, for sharing. Just before that as well, Daniel, you were saying earlier on about 40% reduction, 40%. What?
Carbon monoxide emission, CO2 emission.
For buildings.
Okay, very simple. An average international standard, building contribute to 40% of CO2 in the world. So if the professional is able to reduce the CO2 via the green technology portion, right, it will reduce substantially.
So it's almost 0%. That probably is a hook as well, complete, so there's another thought. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, just one
you
thing.
might want to also consider taking your stories to an environmental so the section of a mainstream newspaper, okay, like the Star has in the past, I don't know about now, having environmental writers, I'm sure there are other mainstream stuff also. From a technology standpoint, like DNA, you can talk about what kind of technologies that can actually reduce this and what are the good stuff that you can contribute back to Mother Earth and things like that.
So what Freda and Edwin both said is actually very insightful because there's often possibilities to take your pitch and turn it on its head. So instead of talking about the green technology, talk about the environment as a whole. Talk about CO2 emissions, talk about pollution, especially now it's very timely. We have haze going on. Singapore's blanketed. Malaysia, it's been getting worse by the hour. So talk about the environment. That way you get interest from a larger audience segment. Everybody cares.
And if you want to target consumers, talk about how you can save money, okay? Consumers are always interested about saving money. All of us are.
Or make money,
okay?
make money.
Okay, yes.
Young lady, come.
So we have another volunteer to do an impromptu pitch and see how.
No, different.
Huh?
Hi. Yeah, you can say you're fired later.
Not yet.
So I'll just try my luck.
All right. For the sake of our Ustream viewers, just introduce yourself and.
Hi. I'm actually Jolene. I come from a company called Senseless. The pitch is actually for Yahoo Kids. I know Yahoo has a strong interest in kids and education for kids. So in Senseless, we came out with a education rewards tool that we believe will revolutionize the way kids learn in classes as well as online. So since we launched, we've managed to raise some angel capital. We've gone on to participate in GIST last year, and we're one of the selected teams. We've rolled out our system, and we are currently beta testing it. But we're wondering whether all these little chunks of information would be something that Yahoo Kids would be interested to cover, or until what point would it need to go before it's something interesting?
Okay, well, two things. First of all, I still don't know what your company actually does. Secondly, Yahoo Kids is not Malaysia.
Right.
That is the US.
Correct.
So you're talking about an entirely
Totally
different
different
market. entirely different editorial department.
Okay.
But that being said, a good story is always a good story.
Right.
Regardless of which publication it is, regardless of whether or not my market is about kids. So you first need to tell me what the story is.
Okay. I guess the story here would be we've come up with a tool to actually incentivize kids for every action that they do in class as well as online. So this is interesting because now when a child goes to class and they answer questions, they're told by their teachers whenever you participate, you get a chance to win a PS3. So they're really motivated. And since we launched in March, we also power the online education portal for kids that's in partnership with Maybank. And we're actually beta testing this in private schools and also allowing parents to create little tasks for their kids to do, such as go clean your room tonight. And your parents will give you a special badge that you can redeem for a special auction. So it's really exciting. We plan to gamify education in a new way. That's the technological aspect of it. But I think I'll follow up with Asohan's question to until what level Yahoo Malaysia will be interested in. And yeah. Yes, we are. Correct. Both online and offline. Yes.
You'll be writing that story, right, Asohan? Yeah. Yes, Edwin.
That's like pushing the ball over.
While you guys fight.
Yeah.
So for Yahoo, again, if you talk about gamification and the technology, it's very interesting to hardcore tech sites
Correct.
like Tech in Asia or DNA. For Yahoo, again, remember you're talking to a mass audience.
Right.
So you need to dumb this down as much as you can. What are the incentives? Because speaking from my perspective, there's a lot of potential in your story.
Right.
It depends on what the incentives are. If the incentive is a stick of chewing gum, then my interest level drops. If the incentive is a PS3, I might try to apply for it as well. So
Everyone's welcome.
Yes, we could do that. We have run,
Asohan is pitching the angle of gaming is good for kids.
so we have run stories like this before, and what we found out from our analytics is that these kind of stories are of interest only to parents.
Right.
So you're talking about a market of, let's say now we have 8 million people on Yahoo. Of that 8 million people, you'll only get a niche of that. Those who have kids young enough to benefit from this. So that's good if you're a parent. But what you want is just something to have an angle that's so catchy that me being, and I have no kids, and I'd still want to read this.
Okay, I got you.
So if what you said earlier, kids, do you want to win a PS3 while studying? Or do you want a PS3 for studying?
Yeah.
That itself makes me go like, wow, how is this working? It's quite borderless in that sense.
Okay, got you.
So of course, I just want to say, just like Daniel, you would have multiple angles in your story. So the parents' portion, you can pitch to parents' thoughts. For example, the Star has one.
Thank you so much.
So
good to
things
know.
like that. Magazines, they are a little bit more specialized. That have cover the those mother articles. Okay.
Okay.
And from DNA, I think was mentioned. I think gamification is important. The other thing is to one other angle I could think of is to talk about how you are using gaming and changing the common perception that games are always bad for children, and kind of like debunking the myth, if you will. Those are some story angles I can think of.
Thank you.
And if you're going to look at publications, right, you also need to look at the publications themselves. And I'm talking about the mass media publications. Look at the kind of audience they are trying to hook as well. So, for example, MSN Malaysia would probably not be your target because they go for a much younger audience. Their audience are teenagers, people in their early 20s, people who are not really concerned about families just yet. The Star, as Edwin said, has a parenting section. The New Straits Times audience is probably too old for you. Oh, no, not very young, definitely. You're thinking about people like, let's
Mark
say,
is
Berita
speaking from
Harian.
experience since he worked for NST before.
Yeah, and the Star. So Berita Harian, Harian Metro are probably more in your audience profile. Yahoo too, in that sense, is actually more what you're looking for. And you can gauge this by the kind of stories they put out. So if you look at Yahoo, for example,
I wish I could write this down. There's a recording, right?
Don't worry, the live stream, the good team from Media Saya is also recording it, and we will be uploading it on YouTube and sharing the link so you guys can rewatch.
So look for the kind of stories that the publication does, and you can gauge from there whether or not this would be a good fit for you, because it has to fit your brand as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get your name? Jolene, okay. Are you a parent, Jolene? Okay, one of the things, as I was listening and I'm a parent, you probably at some stage have to prepare some FAQs. Because as a parent, I was listening, I have to incentivize you to clean your room? You have to clean your room. There is no incentive. It's called a roof over your head. So you probably might get that kind of reaction as well further down the road. Why should I incentive? Maybe studying, I don't know, to me, you got to study lah. That's it.
That's old school, Freda.
Yeah, no, that's the way it should be. Personal. Okay, so you're gonna get people.
Oh, don't use the word old there. Right?
So I think Edwin and I here share some of these. Anyway, but yeah, some of these things to think about as you move down, right? That might, as a parent, I'm listening. Yeah, good. This is great.
Sorry, just one more thing. You may have already done this, Jolene, but it doesn't hurt to actually have informal focus groups. Yeah, so speak to parents, ask them what their thoughts are. It helps.
You haven't got a parent like me yet, have you? Okay. You have, right? Okay. Anybody else wants to pitch? Or do you have a question? You have a question?
Yeah, I also want to narrow it down. So we heard from these guys. We know that you guys are all
Asohan, you're not supposed to ask questions. The people here are.
Go on. Okay, go on. He's trying to get his story, yeah. And
so, so we hear you. I mean, Mark, you've got your ethics, it's a story and all that. It's an interesting story, an interesting pitch you run. Now, I'm sure some of these companies who have had media coverage before, who have approached the media, sometimes face some uncomfortable things about the media. Right? Let's not all pretend we're all good guys here. Right? What you do when the media guys say, it's not speaking from your experience, but you don't advertise the media. But you don't advertise it as well. Or you're too small. You need other big companies.
okay, if y'all didn't hear that.
Okay, that went on the video too.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, as they're sorting this out.
IBM needs to have smarter buntings, not just smarter planet. And smarter.
Shh, Edwin.
Edit. I know one of the things that PR companies get faced as well, and obviously with startups, when they try to pitch to certain publications and they get this, you don't advertise with us, we're not going to carry your story. Yeah, I know. So, what do you do? This is just.
We shall ask Yahoo first because they are the powerhouse here.
Yes.
I'm outnumbered 2-1 here.
Not by traffic.
Okay, it's an interesting thing you brought up because we actually had this discussion just yesterday in Yahoo. My colleagues from the Philippines and Singapore, Indonesia, we're all just having a conversation about this very thing. And the thing is, there's always going to be in any media company that constant tug of war, if you will, between editorial and sales. Sales wants to monetize everything they can monetize. And that's good, that's their job, that's what pays our salaries. But editorial, on the other hand, is always looking for the best possible story. And this fight will go on till kingdom come. It's never going to end. But if you, as a company that's pitching a story, are faced with this, I can only offer you my sympathies and tell you that you should abandon that publication because it's clear that that person doesn't have ethics. A media company, in my view, again, and again, I may be just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I believe we have a responsibility. It's almost a vocation. It's not just a job. that we have a responsibility to our users to give them the truth as much as we can. And that truth may be given to them even if it's not from an advertiser. Advertising dollars should never be the gauge of whether a story should or should not be run. There's a space for that. It's called an advertorial. In Yahoo, we have an even better term for it. It's called a custom brand experience. So there are companies that are big brands. Let me explain. There are companies that are big brands which want to have entire microsites built which present their brand proposition in an editorially sound manner. So we have, let's say, an entire site based on beauty and fashion. And it is sponsored by a beauty and fashion label. And the content is all editorially sound. There's no hard sell. There's no mention of the brand. So that's how we do it in Yahoo. In the newspaper, you'd see a full page with a small word advertorial on top there. And that is basically a cross between an advertisement and a write-up. But editorial coverage should not be sold. It is wrong. There are no two ways about it. It happens more often than we'd like it to happen, but there's no place for it.
Just a little bit about BFM as well. We're very particular about that. If someone wants to come in, and if it is a sponsor, we will say this particular interview is sponsored, brought to you by, so they know that it is a sponsored space. Or there is this segment called, our editorial is called Marketplace. So that's very clear. But we do, we work, it's a small outfit. So we're very particular. And I think that comes also from our boss, that we don't move in that direction because listeners, readers are not stupid. Yeah? So people will know, people can smell it if it's so promoted. Yeah? So, and we have to be, we can have that integrity with our audience. Yeah? So otherwise you lose them. Yeah? Yeah, PR companies, you've had that. You don't advertise with us. So
hands up if you've experienced that phone call.
Who's that? Okay.
Julia from Rantel PR. We see you.
Who's the publication?
Thank you.
Who's the publication?
All right.
Live feed.
On a good day, I'm as optimistic as Mark, and I hold up to the ideals of this shouldn't happen in the first place. But that's very rare, usually on a Sunday, because I don't have to work. But the fact of the matter is, it happens quite regularly, unfortunately. The independents, as we would like to call ourselves, try to not do these kinds of things for us. And I've had entrepreneurs say this to me before, and it breaks my heart. But have to pay money, right? You want to write about us? And I never know what to say, because I can say the reply for me, from a publication I work for, is that no, you don't need to pay. If your story is good, if your story is newsworthy, if your story speaks to the audience that I write to, it's a done deal. No talk of money. But these things do happen. And when you are faced with that situation, if you're lucky, you have other options. You can do what Mark suggested and just abandon the damn thing. But in the event that you kind of do need your story on this particular publication because it fits your profile, they do speak to the people you want to speak to, then the only advice I can give is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. The fact of the matter is that media organizations is not a hive mind. It's made up of multiple personalities who all have their own viewpoint of what they think is best. So if you do get that first wall, like, oh, you don't advertise with us, then it's time for you as a startup to get creative. So there are many ways to go about it. So one that's been mentioned already earlier, I think the official term is tacking or tagging, where you have a larger issue or trend, like in the case of, environmental concerns. And that's where you tag on your product and your message onto that larger issue. Or, because the fact of the matter is that we always want stories. We're always looking for stories. It's a question of timing. It's a question of tip during Ramadan, very, very good time to pitch because everybody else isn't. And we're dry, right? So it's all about timing. It's all about speaking to perhaps the right interested reporter who will then within the organization champion your story. They themselves believe it's worthwhile. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. If that publication who stonewall you the first time because you're not an advertiser, try again if that really is the right publication for your product, but be creative about it. Trying to find either a larger issue you can tag on your story with, be willing to be quoted on record with your mugshot as well, giving comments or thought leadership perspective, because most of you, your company may be new, but you are not. You have a wealth of experience that you can share. If you're willing to share on record, all the more reasons reporters will again come to you. So that's kind of like a soft plug, where in a story about a larger issue, it'll be like Daniel, CEO, founder of So that's how you get your in. So over time, and it is a long-term, if your startup's going to be around, it's not going to be a fly-by-night thing. It is a relationship-building process. So the first couple of times, you agree to a reporter, this big issue, MP probably went crazy again. I'll comment on record. It's appreciated. More often than not, I've had interviews where the guy just talks for 10 minutes straight. At the end of it, he says, don't quote me. I don't want my picture taken. You're wasting my time. That's 10 minutes of my life I'm not getting back. So think creatively about how to get around those "you're not an advertiser" walls. And you may be pleasantly surprised, because always keep in mind, a media organization is made of multiple personalities. If you strike out with person A, try person B.
Just move the discussion slightly into this area of thought leadership. It's a very nice sounding phrase, right? Thought leadership. So what exactly is thought leadership? And I think many people have different definitions for it. Certainly in my time with the Star, and also as a freelance consultant, editorial consultant before, I've met personally clients of what they believe, they think is this idea of thought leadership. I think for me, any company, startup, even PR firms must realize that there must be thought in your leadership, okay? Okay, think of it that way, thought in your leadership. Now, a lot of times, companies don't have the thought in the first place. And I work with clients, they ask me, hey, I've heard of you, so-and-so, I recommended you, can you come over, we have a meeting together. I go to the meeting, and in 1 hour, I don't know what their thoughts are, So that is a no-no in terms of thought leadership. You got to be clear in what you are trying to communicate, So this is an area that is, I think, people don't talk much about. Everybody wants to be thought leaders, but unfortunately, they don't have much thoughts in the area. So take, for example, Daniel, yours is I'm not picking on you, but I'm just saying yours happens to be quite a technical and a niche area, okay? And to really provide thought leadership is really to be able to, as I think Marc said, make things simplify for the common man to understand. And this is one area I think a lot of startups fall into. It's kind of like an Achilles heel for them. They use too much jargon, okay? Jargon, because a lot of their products and services that they are trying to build, they are, got some fancy programming inside there, or some fancy features, and they're always using the jargons, the ZODs and the LTEs and the what have you, all those acronyms. In fact, that's what we also get sometimes when we speak to some of these guys. I cover the telco bit also, and they're talking about everything from MPLS to LTE to etc., etc. So when you talk to the media, especially more generalist media like the mainstream media, perhaps Yahoo, they're not so technically specific. You got to define terms and also make it simple, the concepts to grasp, okay? Many times when I think Gabey said it, 10 minutes of your life, I've been through 45 minutes of presentation, and nothing comes out of it. I don't really know what's going on, and after the press con or the one-on-one interview, you slip in 2 or 3 questions, and there's the story, So it's 1 hour of your time, but actually get something that can be done in 10 minutes. So that's something to be very clear about. Just one more point about some of you may not be working in the startups that you are producing products and services not in the B2C space, because I think Gabey made a comment just now. Watch over me. Watch over me is a very B2C. It's a very consumer-centric thing. Everybody can identify with being frightened and attacked in the car park and stuff like that. So what happens when you're in a B2B space? Well, if you're in a B2B space, it doesn't mean that you don't have a story to tell. It's just that you got to be more selective in the kind of publications that you tell your stories to, unless, as Gabey said, you are able to kind of like find other ways to talk about the issue in a more holistic way. Like in coming back to the green example, or coming back to the kids example, the gamification of kids, you have to think bigger. Always basically begin with the end in mind. To borrow Stephen Covey's words, begin with the end in mind. Ask yourselves, what does the reader want to read? And I think this is not rocket science. I think people just don't think about this. Begin with the end in mind, and that's what we are trained to do. We always ask, what is it that the reader want to read, and you got to know your audience also. I think that has been mentioned earlier. So these are the important things that startups must understand, because this is how the media works. And in fact, not just how the media does. This is basic psychology of what people want to read. Okay.
On the subject of simplifying, how many of you listen to Light FM? Show of hands. It's okay, I listen to it too.
We're old.
That's
We're
okay.
old.
Okay, sorry, Freda. So the reason why I bring up Light FM is because they have this show, I think every Friday, with Dr. Rajvant. He's a doctor, but the medical advice that he dispenses is very down to earth. It's very simple. Even a complete idiot like me can understand what he's talking about. And that is what makes it very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very relatable. And that's what you should aim for as well. As Edwin rightly pointed out, stay away from jargon. Stay away from technical terms, because it makes you feel good. It gives you, a bit of a rush to be able to throw out all these terms, but it does the average person no good. You lose them. So always think of the dumbest possible person and talk to that person.
So where would you like to veer this? Just a point. Just a point as well. On this, how you can actually segmentize it. If you would put this as a person, right? Let's say it's Freda. Then you want to talk about Freda as Freda as a mother, Freda as a daughter. There's a different angle to that person already. Freda in radio, Freda in her past life. If you were to, and that's a different audience you're talking to as well. When you talk to me as Freda as a mother, then I'm probably consuming a certain kind of public, So you have to think of who would it appeal to in the different areas, your product. Because there's the tech aspect. There's also the parents aspect. There's also the schools aspect, right? So think of it that way. And then the different, will come to me. Asuhan, anything to add? No. Okay.
Any other questions? We haven't had any. Yeah.
Yes. Did it come up or just a question? Yeah.
How do you address a Gen Y perspective? We're talking to reporters who are, or journalists who are not Gen Y.
Gabby, that's your question.
I will also attempt. Okay, Gabby.
Whoa, hang on. The question was, how do you pitch a Gen Y type story to a non-Gen Y journalist? So surely, Edwin, you are the best placed panelist to answer.
Well, she got me there. Yeah.
And I'm safely in the middle.
Haha.
What's the question again?
Panelists fail.
Is the reporter's publication, does it address Gen Y people?
For example, the tech industry is pretty much saying that Gen Y uses a lot of tech, very familiar with tech, they grew up with tech.
Yeah.
They don't think about
Yeah, but you got to think of, think about the audience. Now, this publication, right, doesn't matter how the journalist, but does that publication address Gen Y? Does it have Gen Y readers? If it does, then you don't have to worry about it. You wouldn't be working there. You wouldn't speak to Gen Y.
how do you know about that?
Okay, let me summarize. Okay, let me summarize. What he's trying to say is, if you're saying you try to tell this Gen Y story to a non-Gen Y reporter, yeah? Okay, so you got to find out whether that reporter, what publication it represents. If that publication reaches out to the Gen Y, it doesn't matter who the person is. Could be a boomer, but he gets Gen Y. Otherwise, the boomer wouldn't be working for the publication. So you have to think whether the news portal, whatever, is reaching out to that audience. That's fine. Doesn't matter who's going to be writing it. So you got to understand the profile of the publication.
Because we identify really strongly with the publication that we work for, because that helps us in the way we do our jobs. So if the publication I work for speaks to a Gen Y audience, it doesn't matter whether I'm 25 or 55. When you pitch me your story and that has a Gen Y connection, I will listen to you and I will take interest, because that's a publication I work for. Because we have to be self-restricted in this sense, because if it was left open-ended, we'd go crazy. Because that means anything could be a story. And that's not an efficient use of our time in that sense.
So what you should be looking for... So what you should be looking for is more the section within the publication than the reporter within the publication. So say, for example, you're talking about The Star. If you want to reach out to the Gen Y audience, you're probably talking about Rage, which is the Gen Y section of the newspaper. Or if, let's say, internationally, you're talking about a publication like BuzzFeed. Or Cracked.com, which I love. So this is what you should be looking at, because there are two kinds of reporters. One is a specialist reporter. The other is a general reporter. A specialist reporter would be like guys like Edwin and Gabey. They cover their area of expertise, which is the industry tech. Then you have crime reporters, court reporters, lifestyle reporters, travel reporters, sports reporters, and so on and so forth. So these people know their business, whether it's Gen Y or not. If they are 55 years old and covering the Gen Y section, they know their business. They know how to write for their audience. On the other hand, you have the general reporter, whose job it is to cover anything and everything. This person is literally a jack of all trades. He can be covering Parliament today, and he can be covering a story about a blocked drain tomorrow. And this person's job is to be able to adapt. So either way, the reporter will find a way.
I just want to ask a question to both of you, and DNA, maybe I put you on a spot. Yahoo would definitely have the answer. But what would be the profile of your readers?
For Yahoo, it's mainly about 25 to 40 years old. PMEBs, we get a lot of government servants. Of course, mainly majority Malaysians, some people from Singapore as well. That's about all I can reveal, actually.
Okay, all right. But, okay, so, that's the rough idea. With you guys, have you worked, do you know who the profile?
Edwin, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I knew she was going to ask this, so I prepared before coming. We are read mainly by also the younger set, between 20 and 35, according to some data that we have. A lot of startups read us, and what we find is that that is the zone that we are in, mainly reaching out to the tech community. That said, in the last 3 to 4 months, some level of readership has extended to even older, especially some of the other more serious, for lack of a better word, more serious articles we are treading on, like online censorship, the election, social media and all that. We gain a lot of traction over the election because of this, thanks to brilliant writing by Asohan and, Karam also. The thing about it is that we are probably growing our audience just beyond the tech realm, Of course, primarily the people are still reading us from the tech background. So.
Yes, DNA readers are super smart. Very thankful.
Okay, just sorry, one thing. Just
what
a
can you
quick
reveal?
tip to try to understand what kind of audience a publication has. Look at the ads. The ads on a publication tell you about its audience. So if you see a lot of BMW, a lot of Cartier, a lot of Louis Vuitton ads on a publication, you know that publication is for affluent people. If you see a lot of Giant, Tesco, Mydin ads, then you know it's not poor people, but it's mass. So if you see a lot of products directed at men, you know what their audience is lah. So look at the ads. Ads are very revealing.
I think ads are a good indicator, but I would like to say they are not the only indicator, or it may not really tell the whole picture. You really have to comb through the kind of articles that come up on the site. For example, DNA would not do a review of the latest Windows 8 or a phone, for example, because we are not concentrating on the consumer tech section. So we will write consumer tech as it pertains to how businesses view it. So couple of weeks ago, I ran a story on Windows Surface Pro. Okay, but the story was not about whether the snap-on keyboard was great or the screen was this, that, or whether the screen was responsive. But it's really the
battery
impact.
life. It's always about battery life.
It's an impact to businesses, and the battery life, unfortunately, is not good on this machine, and so says the reviewers. So we give that kind of perspective because businesses need more than 4 hours of running around working and stuff like that. So from the content, you can really tell the kind of readership that we have also, just not the ads.
Share with you about BFM, the kind of people that actually listen to us, and this is we share. We're quite transparent that way. We started off thinking that it would appeal to people Gen X and above, right? People with higher disposable income, and but what happened was that also along the way we talked about our brand values, and our brand values is ultimately whatever we do, that we educate, we enlighten, and we entertain. And our mission is actually to make Malaysians more open-minded. So that is like the whatever we do, that's the idea. And we always do these surveys every year. We're not audited, so we get these surveys done, and recent results show that actually more than about 50% of the people that listen to BFM are actually 25 and below. But if you look at their income, they are of the higher income group. So they do have higher spending power. So it's not so much the age, right? What sort of people, what sort of profile, psychographics of the people is that, they want something that's more transparent. So if you even listen, of course, I'm not segmentizing into the different shows, but if you listen to the evening show, you hear, election. You hear a lot of people calling from various age groups with their grouses and everything. I think these things relate to people of all ages, but just based on the survey, actually, about 50% of the people below 25. Yeah? And I think at the end of the day, when your values is about certain things, you would appeal to people, whatever demographics, psychographics they are.
And your CEO is an ex-Yahoo, right? Just throwing that in there.
Yes.
Freda, the PRB folks at the back there very quiet. I think we should get them to ask.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. This was supposed to be your chance for revenge. What's
With that occasion when the person why you don't advertise with us? What you say?
Can you come up then?
We would love
for the
to hear
sake of the live stream. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Julia.
Drum roll.
Okay, I can't.
I think at the end of the day, you got to understand that the pitch that you are doing or we are doing on your behalf cannot be cookie cutter. Each publication, you may have an angle that could suit parenting, that could suit environment. So you need to make sure that you work with your agency and tell them what you need. What is your end goal? And then we will turn around and say, okay, these are the publications that you should go for. And when the publication tells me that advertising is their focus, we turn around and tell the client, we'll find another way for you. And we normally do. Yeah. That's a plan.
That was a plan. Okay. Other than Julia, anybody else would like to contribute? Ask questions? Any questions, Asohan? Since you're writing the article anyway. It's shy. Yeah, right. And yes. I think you want to share the anecdote.
Hello, yes. I want to ask about...
Could you introduce yourself?
No, yeah, I'm Hugh. I'm here because I'm actually with a creative agency handling visuals for tech companies, but I'm actually handling another organization as well, which is rather oddball. The question I'm asking is because there's no exactly any media organization exactly covers what we do. Has anyone heard of Comic Fiesta? Just one or two,
yes.
A few people, but it's an event that has mass appeal. We get tens of thousands of people purely through social media, and the response through traditional media is a bit, I think, a bit lacking because I realize that we have mass appeal, we have our angles are all over the place. We have mass appeal, we have we handle creative education, creative development, a bit of the creative industry, and also pushing the local business a bit, and we can't even push for like business-related sites because we're not even a business. We're actually a non-profit organization. And the event has grown quite large. It's now this year is going to be handling the entire KLCC. But it's just that every year there has been like an abysmally low amount of things of media.
Interest from the media.
Yes. And I would actually want to improve on that. And actually, the question is, right, if like for example, if I'm going to pitch for publication, like for example, we do handle we are a platform for the local creative industry. I think for games, I think that would be of relevant interest. But when we pitch, you do want to listen to a lot of the other things that might not be relevant to you. I mean, because our area of interest is very large, and there's not one major one, and it's kind of difficult to angle like one story out.
All right, I'm familiar with the name Comic Fiesta, but can you just refresh my memory? It is a annual exhibition for things like comic books, video games, and all that. So the problem for you is that it does have mass appeal up to a certain point, but the fact is that the type of content, or at least exhibitions that you have going on, is actually very hobbyist, very subculture based. So you'll get your anime geeks and fans coming in for all the cosplay elements. You get your hardcore comic book, like the Marvel and the Dark Horse fans coming in for the comic book section. So actually, it is difficult for you to do an overall pitch. You would get better mileage if you go based on the subculture. And in that sense, and these are the dedicated hardcore fans, that's what you want anyway. So you've mentioned already that you're getting a lot of traction from social media. Because that's kind of the movement of where these subcultures and these hobbyists have migrated to. Other possible platforms for you could be specialist blogs, as much as blogs are, anyway. So
they do cover us actually.
Yes, so specialist blogs. So it depends on what your goal is. Do you want publicity to get more people to come for your event, or do you want to raise the awareness of the Comic Fiesta brand? What is your end goal? More people visiting, or higher awareness of just what you guys do?
It's higher awareness. Actually, the hall can't fit any more people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you just want more people to know of it rather than getting more visitors in. One possible suggestion I could make. Oh yeah, you should speak to Asahan. He's a geek nerd. Yeah, why do you need? Aswan's question is, why do you need? Yeah. Aswan, you need to talk to the mic for the guys on Ustream. Come on.
Yes. Yes, it's just that.
You may not need it because you're telling me the hall can't fit any more people. So what's the goal? You know?
Okay. The purpose is actually to create awareness because, number one.
Awareness among whom?
The bigger general public. I'm not quite sure because sponsors keep requesting for, hey, sponsors. You have nothing on media, and you have to pay to enter. Actually, we charge 20 ringgit per day to enter, and the hall is full throughout the day. And even though I have videos and pictures, and they just don't believe it, and they want actual thing. And it's a video. Last year I had a time-lapse video showing the hall, and you can't even see the ground. It was full with people, and they're still okay.
Maybe you should give your sponsors some complimentary tickets to the event to come and attend.
That's what I do actually. Since I took over like 2-3 years ago, all I did was whatever CEO I can put my hands on, I just say, you don't have to sponsor us, just come. But some of them just it's probably not.
So so the first question I'm going to ask is that in your sponsorship package or contract, do you guarantee press coverage at all?
No.
So then the griping
because
from
we
your
can't give it.
So the griping from your sponsors is more that they're concerned because they're not seeing the event being mentioned on their usual channels.
I believe so. And the people that join us are mostly of the younger generation who believe who traditional media is still very strong, but they don't believe that an event that runs solely on social media can drag so many people. And we do that because we are a non-profit organization, we have no money, we just go on, build a community. It's over 10
but
years.
do your sponsors actually continue coming back to sponsor you?
Almost every year, unless suddenly
So,
You have a problem
so your
everybody
problem
here
is
would kill to have.
Your
No,
problem
no,
is not so much with the media, I guess.
Yeah.
the small sponsors actually there isn't a very big name. The biggest name is a small section of Maxis called M Planet who does games and things, and they sponsor just a bit. So the issue is that because that's the major challenge I have, as in that it's very difficult to get. Okay, my end result is to get more awareness so that I can re-pitch to sponsors later on. So that's why I'm asking the advice. Why I'm not really asking so that what's my problem, but that's my problem. And I don't know if you have a solution for that. If you have a solution for that, it would be great.
Okay, a couple of suggestions.
Yes.
The Star has, in Star 2, there's a section about comics. So you should target your pitch at that section. I don't know if Star Mag on Sunday still has it, but sometime back they used to have a manga section. Do they still have it?
It's dead. I wrote for
chopped
it.
that out. Yeah.
You wrote for it?
Yeah, I wrote
so
for
you
it.
see, okay,
No,
so
that's all. Only the Star writes about us. So.
correct. So you already have Malaysia's #1 English daily. If the
only
Star
that.
writes about you.
Only that, because I have connections there. So
Right. So you see, what you actually have is something, ironically, that the mainstream media actually wants, which is you have tremendous social media presence. Mainstream media publications right now are all willing to kill to get their stories to go viral. And you have a robust community on social media, which mainstream media publications don't have. So what you should be pitching is, you tell them that, you do this coverage, and you already have the connections in there, and you tell them that we will put the story up on our social media community. So it's a win-win. So these are the ways that you give the media as well something to work with. There's a win-win factor there.
Media partnerships. So moving forward, say for next year's event, apart from the Star, obviously you would bring them on board as your primary media partner due to the ongoing support that you've already gotten from them. But you can also approach other media with a media partnership proposal. This is where when you say, okay, in exchange for the stories about the event coming out on your pages and all that, this is what we give you in return. Banner, presence on all marketing collateral, and obviously the key, like what Mark said, we will be sharing all this content on the social media channels, and that's when you throw your nice little fan community. We have 30,000, we have 50,000. So via this indirect route of building more media partnerships, you then will get the result of increased press coverage for your sponsors to see.
And another thing you have going for you is strong visuals. So events like this make very fun images. So you should be talking to also the weekend editions of the newspapers. Because the Sunday editors love these kind of pictures on the front page. A whole bunch of people dressed in crazy costumes. It's beautiful to see on a Sunday. That's exactly what they want. So look at it from these things. Think of the visuals. That's the most exciting thing about this, the cosplay, the comic book characters, the toys, the comics, the works, everything. And pitch along these lines. But actually, to be honest, I don't think you have any problems.
No, not really. If the hall can't fit any more people.
really, it's mostly on the sponsorship side.
But you already said you got coverage from the Star.
But let me tell you this,
only the
okay?
Star,
I can give you some hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel because right now most of your sponsors are traditionalists. They're old school. They have the mindset that if they can't see it on a hard copy newspaper, it does not exist. But things are changing. The tide is changing. Online ad spend is rising with each and every quarter. So the people who you liaise with as the sponsorship managers and all that, those guys are either going to be retiring because they're old enough, or they have to die off, as Asawan said, or also to be replaced by the younger guys who get it. So it's the tide is turning. So my advice to you is just wait it out. Just wait it out. A couple more years, you're not going to have this problem at all. Once the old folks die out.
One more thing. So he says only the Star, which is glass half empty. Now let me poll you guys. How many of you guys would love to get your content on the Star? Hands up, please.
Ta-da!
Okay. You see? Okay.
So, yeah.
Ask about something you brought up just now, is about the media partnership thing. Would it
okay, for example, if I have a media partnership with the Star logo is there, how would that affect the relationships of the, how would it affect the chances of it being featured on other publications actually? Would there be any other, would there be any effect at all?
No. If your like Mark said, if you have awesome visuals of really hot cosplayer chicks, you're not going to have a problem. The thing about a media partnership is that it guarantees that that publication will carry something because it's an agreement that they have entered into in exchange for branding presence. Because usually, for the most part, these partnerships have no money component involved. Some do, but not all of them. Mostly it's an exchange. In exchange for us running your stories, because, finite space, we have 20 stories, you only fit 10. If you're a media partner, then that means you are already automatically one of the 10. So that's what a media partnership guarantees you. Oh, okay. Finally, I said something wrong and then Aswan finally takes up
You
the
didn't
mic.
say anything wrong because Digital News Asia has been a media partner on some events as well. But when it comes to the mainstream media, I was 20 years in the Star and I was the in-tech editor at one stage and we used to get pictures like this. Now, as editor, I only have a say, but I don't make the final decision for the newspaper to be a media partner in any event. And the first thing you go with many mainstream media publications is, how much ad spend are you going to be putting in there, right? Because, I don't blame the media partners for this. You are making money out of the event. Not in your case because you're non-profit, but someone is making money because you're charging and all that, right? So if you are making money...
Who's making money?
So anyway, for yours may be unique, but in case the rest of you guys are involved in any events like this and you want a media partner, portals, online portals and all may operate differently. For us, okay, getting our branding with your collaterals and all that is great. But for the mainstream media, they don't need you. They need money, right? So they will always, I've had these talks, we rarely do big newspapers agree to be a media partner unless you promise them a certain ad spend. Not from you directly perhaps, but from those taking part in the exhibition. The other sponsors and all that. Sponsorship money, how much of it is going to come to the paper and all that. So you will have to face that discussion. It's always not, just getting your logo there is good enough. Why does the Star need its logo in your listing? No. So you've got a great relationship with the Star, which is more than most other startups. Your problem is the conversation you're having with your sponsors, right? And in the end, I think you need champions within these sponsor companies. Who is agreeing, who in the company is signing off those checks? They need to speak to their CEOs and point, hello, we are getting all this traction, We may not be getting stories in Utusan and all that, but, we are getting traction to the community that we want to reach out to. They need to change the conversation with the CEOs or the CMOs who are not into this digital marketing thing. So you sit down with the people who are signing off the checks, find out what's really going on with these companies, why are they griping that they're not getting, why do they need that media coverage, right? They're getting traction with the audience they already want to reach. Doesn't always have to come out in print to be true.
Yeah. I'm just listening to how successful the event is. Obviously I'm not the target audience, but it's. But it's this is a show on BFM called I Love KL that would probably find that quite interesting. But yeah, why does it have to be in that media? And I guess that's the situation you're in. But it doesn't mean that it isn't successful, right? The buzz is going on. Just look at the recent elections. The opposition didn't have access to mainstream media, right? Anyway, so, and yet, what social media can do for you. So, just had to plug that. Anyway, anyone else? Anything to add?
Just to add on to what Asohan said about partnerships of this kind. So usually these kind of partnerships, from an online perspective, right? The larger brand, the bigger brand, the stronger brand, holds the whip hand. So what you see is, classic example, football clubs, EPL clubs, when they come to Malaysia on their tours, way before the tour actually happens, these guys, they come and their marketing people come by with a pitch. And their pitch will basically involve silver packages, platinum packages, gold packages, where if you want to partner with them, your brand can latch on to their stronger brand, and you pay either 200,000, 500,000, or 1 million, and it's usually US dollars. And that's how it works. But when you are talking about something that's relatively small in scale, like what you are doing with a media partnership, what you got to look at is also that the media company holds the whip hand, which means that they are not going to be paying you any money. And everything that they do for you has a dollar value attached to it. So if we talk about online media, if let's say we create a page for the event, that's worth something. If we write a story about the event, that's worth something. If we have a banner ad on that page about the event, that's worth something. So everything we do has a dollar value. And what we will do is we will tabulate, we will count everything to see what is the overall dollar value. And we will expect you, even if not to pay, to at least give us something in return that's equivalent in value. It's basically, it's a win-win situation for everyone. But the question is, do you have the resources to give back what we are giving you? So while your hall may be packed, we are talking about reaching a daily audience of 2 million eyeballs, 3 million eyeballs. How are you going to compensate for that? So you got to think about these things before thinking about the media partnership itself. Something like this, you still will have to slowly build it up at small scale first, and then eventually let it evolve into something bigger in a more organic manner.
Yes.
So Gabey mentioned something about timing. It was taking time, for example, there's the time the press release maybe the day before coming books day, I think especially on Monday, or launching an app to do with education, or education day or something like that. Or let's say your game has something to do with dragons and the next Hobbit film is coming out, so you time it around when trailers are out. Work time to work.
Could
It certainly does. It will help, definitely, because especially I remember when I used to cover the lifestyle entertainment sections, we usually try as best as we can to plan it in advance and go with themes. So we would know, like, today is International Women's Day, so we will cater our content around that. So if you have a particular product that does fit in very nicely with a larger International X Day or a current issue and all that, by all means, tag it then, because then you're talking about, for reporters, it's almost like preconditioning, right? We're already looking at these issues and these trends, and then if your email pops up in our radar and say I'm working on a collection of women-centric features for International Women's Day, then it's like, oh, thank God, It's like your story came in at the opportune moment. And talking about general timing overall, we all, like Marc mentioned, some days we are so busy it's not funny. Other days we're kind of, we're okay. Those are, the dry days. And that's usually when, especially on the online sites, you see like funny stories suddenly appear out of nowhere. That's when it's a dry day. So sometimes you can't predict these things, but if you can, you have a sense. For example, we know festivals. The month of Ramadan is usually filled with nothing but breakfast buffets and stuff like that. So that means that other companies are shutting down for the festive season. That could be an opportunity for you guys to come in with your story. Because I remember, especially during Millennial, during Ramadan, we would go crazy. We would be screaming in the newsroom going, we don't have enough stories, find me some stories. So that, if you have a sense of these kind of cycles, is a great opportunity to attack right there. So yeah.
Generally, the Ramadan period, school holidays, major public holidays, festivals, these are all very slow news cycles. So those are good times to pitch for coverage, but maybe not good times to actually have the event. Yeah. So that's a double-edged sword there. So you got to plan this yourself. If let's say the event is 2 weeks after Christmas, then maybe Christmas time is a good time to send out the press releases, and it may get more face time. So you got to... That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just about to say that.
Yes.
Kind of like a double-edged sword. If you get your story through, fewer eyeballs may be there reading it. So that's something you have to think about.
But that being said, online media traffic drops as well during these periods. So,
Yeah, of course.
but what Asohan says is true. I mean, if it's online, there's always a chance that someone may stumble upon it. But
people can search for it.
Exactly,
That's another
yeah.
thing that you can't do for print, right?
Yeah.
You can't go to a library and do this stuff.
But nowadays, every print publication also has a website. So
That's true.
whatever you have will be searchable. But the thing is, these are things that you have to consider. There's no magic bullets that's going to solve your problems. These are just factors that you need to take into account when you're pitching for your stories.
You know what you can do in these areas when these stories come out? You on your end will probably have to share it with the people that you have. Like, you know, with our podcast, we know that's what people do. They take the podcast and they share it. And then, you know, so that's an idea. Yeah. This one first. Then you. Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Liu. I'm actually from Penang. So today's event, my friend there, Jared, invited me here. So what I want to share is not a question, but just a very short sharing, is that after listening to what our panelists have to say, is that it's true. And I'm currently a columnist for the Star Property. So I run a REIT educational course. I think Freda will be very familiar with REITs. You interview people like Stephen LeBroy and stuff. So I guess two things that I did right before I even become a resident columnist in the Star Property, starting like last month. So in this, the business I'm running is actually a financial education niche. So what happened is I interview fund managers. I just have a blog. I interview fund managers. So what happened is then, because I interviewed him last year, so the fund manager actually invited me to a media appreciation event. So I just, all the way in Penang, I just grab this opportunity and get to know people from the Age, people from the Star. So before I even pitch them, I actually know them in person in that event in a non-pitchy kind of situation. I get the name cards. So, and then after that, a month later, I was like pitching them, hey, I want to contribute articles for the Star. So, and of course, there were some replies but the reply didn't come 3 months after I first sent them the email. It's probably like, the peak season, they're too busy, but they keep that in their inbox or in their, tags or something. So that was one. So it's, then the second thing I did right was that I actually have a blog. So they know that they can see, I'm not really like wanting them to write about me. I want to write for them. So because I want to write for them, then of course, I think if you're the journalist, I want to write for you, then how good you are, right? Do you have the content and are you able to write? But the thing is, I already have a blog, so I have my article published in a less well-known publication like Money Compass. So my work is all there displayed for them to actually look at what have I done and how is my writing, whether the quality is up to their standard. And I was saying that, okay, I know a lot about the details, but my value proposition is that I'm going to simplify this to a level where any reader can consume that content. And that is what I'm offering you. So, and then after I send in my article, then I gave good feedback from them and say that, hey, your article is really, it's very layman, but yet it contains these points, and yet I don't have to edit a lot. It's just like, okay, just put that in and maybe just a few sentences. So I guess that helps. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Opportunity, because you're prepared, yeah? Opportunity needs preparation. Thank you for sharing. And yes, one last question, yeah? You're it.
Just a quick question. Does everything you guys say apply equally to the vernacular press? Because, in some situations, the vernacular press actually has a wider circulation than the English media, and some companies might actually want to reach out to the non-English speaking readership. So, does it apply equally?
Anybody represented? No.
Applies just as well. Know your audience.
Take the mic, Aswahan.
Yeah. We want to hear. That's why you have
Okay, everything we said, applies to the vernacular press too. But I have to warn that there are certain publications in that industry that are notorious for, you advertise with us, right? So be prepared for that. Deal with it calmly, And like Julia said, repitch your angle. It's again, depending on what kind of product or service you have. What we said, the same. There are like Gabey pointed out, there are multiple personalities there. If you strike out with one, try with another. But know your audience. Know what kind of people they reach out to as well.
Same rules apply. So, we've come to the end, or you allow one more? Okay, one more. Okay. That was a very quick one more. Okay lah.
If it's a short question, you can shout it out.
Yeah, okay.
It's for tech startups. Are there like topics in which when once you get the news from a startup, you definitely cover like startup getting acquired, investment capital raised? Are there like teams that
There are milestones in that sense. So for us, because we do cover the tech startup space, is that once we know of a company and they're on our radar, for example, say you've introduced us yourselves to us at an event or something, once we write the initials, usually the style is once we write the initial profile where we talk about what is it you guys are trying to do, your motivations, then you're already on our radar, and it will help if you already established a relationship with us that you update us, because there are like 50,000 startups doing their thing at the same time. So you go by milestones. So say when you successfully complete a round of funding, that will be news to a news portal like DNA. Or if you acquire a new partner, or if you've launched an expansion of your product, these are milestones that you have hit in your startup growth cycles. And these would be of interest to specialty publications like us who delve a lot deeper into the startup scene. It'll be zero interest to Mark.
But when you make your first billion, then we'll be
there you
interested.
go.
That covers all publications and...
Actually, I just want to say, Jolene, there's no real fixed formula as to what we look for. If you look at the definition of newsworthiness, news must be new, okay? There must be something new to talk about. So ask yourself the question, what is new? Okay, whether it's an expansion, whether it's funding, whether it's a new product, new markets you are into, that's a good principle to go by. And of course, things that catches the eye of your readers. And you yourself are a reader, right? And so you should know what interests you. So ask yourself those questions. Use that as a yardstick, as it were. Okay.
The gentleman at the back, would you like to shout your question or... No? You had... No? Fine. Okay. Whoever hold your peace. All right. So, yes, we've come to the end of the 8th episode of the DNA Disrupt series. So, anyway, thank you. It's been very educational for me. The folks from DNA, Gabey, Edwin, and Marc from Yahoo. So, and myself, Freda. Pleasure. Thank you, Freda. Welcome.
Thank you, Freda. Just a little thing. So entrepreneurs, have a look around. PR people, please put up your hand. I know there are more of you. Put up your hand before I start calling you out by name. Alex, put up your hand. All right, so these guys, I invited them to come because these are PR practitioners. They are the professionals when it comes to communications and marketing. So I would like for you guys to take this opportunity to introduce yourselves to the PR practitioners and perhaps, starting talks happening. Obviously, for PR agencies, you guys as startups have no budget. But when you guys do, they would like to be the first ones you call. And they would probably have much juicier stories about the quirks of journalists that they know of. So by all means, reach out to these guys at the back. And have fun. We don't have refreshments for this round of Disrupt, but there is a water cooler, self-service. Toilets are around the back. Smoking area is out front. And hope you guys... Oh,